But then it goes to these like it switches the scene to these ugly ass like school children that are not naked and are not killing people, and I'm like, what happened?
Hello everyone, and welcome to Anime Club After Dark, the podcast that delves into all things anime, manga, and otaku culture related. I'm your host, Alex, but you can call me Senpai, and joining me tonight, I have our Wizard of Wait What, Chinoda.
In local news, the Lizard Man went up against Congress. It showed that our senators clearly did not know anything. Old fuckers need to die already.
Was that the Lizard Man? Was that a fucking Overlord reference?
No, Fuckerberg joke.
And sorry, and our Chivalry of Shota's Shotaro.
I have nuts in my eye.
Context: He's had an allergic reaction, and
His face got all puffy.
It was due to nuts.
Yes.
Totally.
Not the fun kind, but the fun kind.
Wow. Okay, well, that was a slightly more happy introduction to a somewhat dark topic that we're talking about tonight. But before we get into that, there's a couple of news and announcements we want to talk about. The first and foremost is over the last week, before we recorded this episode, the co-founder of Studio Ghibli, Isao Takahata, died. So first of all, R.I.P. to him. If you're not exactly familiar with who he is, he's the man responsible for one of the most critically acclaimed Ghibli movies ever, Grave of the Fireflies, which I highly, highly recommend you watch if you haven't. It's an absolutely gorgeous movie, and it's got great soundtrack in that movie too, by the way. But he's also responsible for movies like The Tale of Princess Kaguya and My Neighbors the Yamadas. All really good stuff that you should watch if you haven't.
What he said.
Yes. But yeah, he was definitely an integral part of Studio Ghibli getting off the ground back in the mid 80s, and I'm sure he will be very, very well missed.
Most definitely.
Yes. But also, and this will actually lead us into what we're going to be talking about tonight, and there was a video that we watched that kind of inspired this whole topic. So there's a new fashion trend in and around Japan that's sort of it's been raising some eyebrows, so to speak, and it's a fashion trend called yami kawaii, which literally translates to mean sick cute, and it's essentially a suicide inspired fashion trend. Now, if you haven't seen it, there's actually a video, like I said, that kind of inspired this whole topic that we're going to be doing tonight, which is mental illness and anime. But the video that actually inspired this, we're going to link down below in the description, so definitely check it out if you get a chance. But it's kind of, for me, I don't know, because I know you watched this video too, show. But for me, when I watched it, at first I was like, this is kind of really weird. But, whatever. But the more I watched it, the more I thought maybe this could actually be used to help promote awareness of suicide and mental illness. I don't know. Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, when I first saw the fashion trend, if I saw that on the street, I would think it was really insensitive to people who suffer from suicide. But then as the video went on and they interviewed some of the creators of the fashion trend and the people who actually wear it, those people do suffer from depression and have attempted suicide. So it's an expression for them to deal with their issues, but so I can't really criticize it because I haven't attempted suicide, so how can I say that it's insensitive to people who have when they themselves are using this fashion trend to cope, but it still doesn't seem right. It feels like yes, they say they cope by using it, but it feels like they could cope through better methods. But I mean, who am I to say that? Whatever works for them, I guess.
That's true. I mean, as someone myself who has actually attempted suicide before, I can say that when I first saw it, I was like, I think you're kind of capitalizing on a trend that isn't necessarily the most healthy thing. I mean, when you kill yourself, you're kind of dead, so it's not healthy at all. But as you said, the more I watched the video, the more I realized that these people are actually the people that suffer from the very thing that they're kind of promoting. So, and it's worth pointing out, if you don't know, that even still today in Japan, people with mental illnesses aren't exactly treated that well. They're kind of treated as outcasts, and they're not. Some of them have trouble getting access to the kind of like medical help that they need. So for me personally, I think that if this makes it easier for them to cope, and certainly easier for other people to see what these people are going through, I think it's probably a good thing.
I look at it as like a band-aid on a seeping wound. Like, it's gonna help a little, but like the optimal thing to do would be like to see a professional, even though I know that doesn't work for everyone. But I would like recommend that as the first avenue.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And like you said, mental professionals aren't always available or accessible in Japan, so what can they do?
Yeah. At least they're trying to inspire other people to be aware of the fact that they have a problem, and they're not just keeping it all inside.
Yeah. I don't really know how it is in Japan, but with like how people treat people with mental illness. So, yeah.
I do like the fact that it is inspiring talk, at the very least, which is most definitely appreciated and has been needed over there for a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you actually watch this video, you will. One of the things that the reporter who is reporting on this says that it's definitely inspiring people to like come forward and talk about their own personal experiences, which I think is something that Japanese society as a whole kind of could benefit from.
Definitely.
But yeah, anything else you want to say about this before we get into the main topic?
No, that's it.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned before, the thing we are going to be talking about tonight is mental illness as it's portrayed in anime, manga, and otaku culture. And like the different ways it's presented and the different ways that characters with specific illnesses are portrayed. So I think we can just jump right into it. We have a somewhat lengthy list of different anime we want to talk about tonight. I think the first one we have here on the list is Watamode, which good luck with this one.
I'm not the one who put it on.
I know you're not the one who put it on. I was saying good luck to myself. So Watamode, we're gonna try. I think it should be pointed out. We're gonna try hard not to spoil too much tonight. I say try. If we do have any spoilers, we'll point them out before we actually mention them. But so Watamode is an anime based on a manga that is basically, I think a lot of people like this because they can relate to the main character of Tomoko, which isn't necessarily a good thing in this instance, because she suffers from multiple different social anxiety disorders. Probably the most prominent one that she suffers from is a disorder called avoidant personality disorder, which is basically like a social phobia. She basically has this inane fear of like socializing with people, and it hinders her ability to make friends and live basically a normal life. And I don't know. Me personally, I liked Watamode. I liked how Tomoko herself was presented, because I think there's a lot of people, myself included, that sometimes can relate to how she acts.
Oh, I could definitely relate to how she acts, and I think a lot of people can, even like high functioning people who. It's because I feel that Tomoko is an exaggeration of what we all feel. Like, we all feel, for the most part, some form of social anxiety, and she's just like the end of the spectrum of that. So I feel like a lot of us can relate to the situations she's in.
Yeah. I certainly feel like she's like you said, she's the extreme side of that spectrum. Like, she's the social phobia taken to the absolute extreme, and it's like you don't really see that necessarily all the time in real life, but to some degree or another you will see it. But something else that I think that this particular anime does really well is portraying like the crazy, like, people have thoughts all the time, right? But you don't necessarily always act on them. But she has crazy thoughts, and she acts on them sometimes. And, like, it's not necessarily the right way you should be, but I think we can all recognize that ability that we have to have a bad idea and then realize we shouldn't do that. But she doesn't have that ability.
She doesn't have that filter.
No, she has no filter. Like, there's a fine line between having a bad idea and acting out that bad idea, and she doesn't have. The line doesn't exist for her, and I think that's what makes it kind of relatable, because you look at that and it's like, I could have done that. Thank God I didn't.
Yup.
I feel like you have specific moments you're thinking of right now.
Yep.
No.
Most definitely.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not ashamed to say it. I definitely have specific moments I'm thinking of right now.
Any you want to share with the class?
Fuck no. Oh my god. I would have stabbed so many people. I would have gone to jail so many times over if I did half the shit I shouldn't have thought of.
We here at Anime Club After Dark do not condone stabbing your friends.
Friends, enemies, loved ones, hated ones. Just everyone in general, really.
Oh my.
I don't know. It's Watamote hit on that, and I thought it hit on it really well. Just the dark, crazy side of everyone's personality that it's always there, but you just never talk about.
Yeah. And like, part of that is that when watching this show, I felt a lot of secondhand embarrassment, which I don't feel that a lot, but this show managed to do that. Because I'm like, girl, are you really going to do that? Oh no, please don't do that. And then she does it. And I'm like, you have no shame.
Now, when you say secondhand embarrassment, are you speaking of like you feel embarrassed for her?
Yeah, I feel
or
embarrassed. Or
you feel embarrassed because you realize this could be you?
No, I feel embarrassed watching her do these things.
Yeah.
But like I relate to her, but I don't really feel embarrassed about relating to her, but I feel embarrassed watching her. Do you feel embarrassed relating to her, Alex?
I might relate to her more than you think I do.
Oh, no.
That's painful.
But nah, I mean, I can realize that it's fiction. Yeah, I feel bad for what she's going through and that she can't really stop because it's who she is. But at the same time, it's really entertaining to watch. And it's like watching a train wreck in slow motion. Like, you know it's bad, but you can't help but watch it.
Yeah.
And that's what Watamote is. Watamote is a train wreck in slow motion. You shouldn't watch it, but you know that they're going to lead with it on the news, and you can say that you were there.
So would you consider this a comedy?
I would consider it a cringe comedy, yes.
Interesting. Yeah, see, like, whether... or the question of whether Watamote, like, presents social anxiety in a healthy way, or, like, presents it in a mindful or sensitive way, I would say it does, because, number one, it's pretty accurate, and number two, it's, I don't think it, like, makes fun of her. I think it's just really portrays it as something cringy. Which
it portrays it as it really is.
Yeah, it's just like there's no bias of how to look at it. It's just like, this is what she does, and this is what a lot of people with social anxiety does, and that's just naturally cringy to look at.
Yes. Also, before we move on, I want to say, like, if you see two cats having sex, please don't watch it. Just let them be.
What?
Did that happen in Watamote?
Yeah.
For real. Did that happen?
Yeah.
Oh God.
It happened. I don't know if it happened in the anime because I didn't actually watch all of the anime, but I have read the manga.
Oh God. What?
But yeah, that is a thing that happens. It's basically sex education for her.
Oh.
I'm cringing right
See?
now.
See?
Jesus.
But that's the point. You're supposed to cringe. You're not supposed to think this is good. And I think that's why Watamode is so good, because it does that so well.
Sure.
But yeah, moving on. So there are two here on this list that I think we can kind of put together because they kind of deal with the same issues. And that is Death Note and Code Geass, but they deal with them in different ways. Death Note and Code Geass both deal with something called antisocial personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder. Now, you can look at this in context of its two main characters. In Death Note, you have Light Yagami, and then in Code Geass, you have Lelouch. Both of these characters, in my mind, this is my perspective, both of these characters are actually exactly the same, except for one key difference: their end goal. Like, they both have the same personality, they both have the same kind of drive to do what they want to do. They just have different end goals, where one wants to be like the fucking, like, sadistic ruler of everyone. One just wants everyone to be free.
Do you think that's stretching it a bit?
No,
I would say that, like, the narration of Code Geass shows more emotional turmoil of Lelouch, whereas you don't see a lot of emotional turmoil for Light, but I would agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly don't see a lot of emotional turmoil in Light after, like, the first couple episodes.
That's not even emotion. Well, that's just like, I wouldn't call that emotional turmoil. Well, maybe. I don't know.
He's a bored teenager
just like
who
shock.
finds a
Like,
yeah. Well, he's a bored teenager who finds a notebook that allows him to kill people. I mean,
it's funny. Light has a hard time accepting it, but then once he accepts it, he's like, I am all for killing. And then Lelouch, like, immediately accepts it. The green girl is like, you want it? And he's like, yeah, I want it. But then he has a lot of emotional turmoil after.
yeah. Well, there's a really good dichotomy there, because whereas with Death Note you have the emotional turmoil at the very beginning, with Code Geass you kind of have it in the middle and toward the end.
Sure.
Whereas, like, Light comes to grips with actually having the power, and Lelouch kind of comes to grips with that having used the power already. I don't know. It's an interesting dichotomy for me. I think that both of these shows really portray both of these disorders incredibly well, especially narcissistic personality disorder with Light Yagami in Death Note. Like, once he kind of accepts the power that he has, he is like gung-ho with it. He says, all right, this is my goal. I'm going to make this happen. I don't care who gets in my way. They're dead.
Yep. So it's
He
like,
certainly takes it to an extreme.
Absolutely, and that's narcissistic personality disorder in a nutshell. All he cares about is himself. I mean, he can't, not to spoil anything. He doesn't care about anyone else, so much so that he doesn't care who he ends up hurting, even if it's his own family members.
and the same can be said for Code Geass.
That's true, but because the goals are different, where you can say that Light has a pretty much evil goal, you can say that Lelouch's goal is, by and large, good. Like, the outcome he's hoping for is something that's better than the current world that they live in. Whereas,
do the means justify the end?
That's a personal choice.
That's personal choice.
Personal.
Actually, that's a good point to bring up, though, because with a lot of people who have narcissistic personality disorder, the ends always justify the means. The question you're asking is, do the means justify the end? I would say yes, the means justify the end, but the ends do not justify the means.
Well, that's what I meant. I meant do the end justify the means?
Yeah. But you could say that with the Lucius emotional turmoil that he has coming to grips with it, is that he's asking himself by the end, do the means justify the end that I'm trying to go for? And with Light Yagami, all you can ask is he just says from the very beginning that the ends are going to justify the means, regardless of what those means actually are.
Yeah, it's just like we said, emotional turmoil for Light initially, and then emotional turmoil later on for Lelouch. But they end up doing basically the same thing.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you personally believe that that's actually a really good representation on both ends of the spectrum of stuff like antisocial personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder?
Well, I'm not familiar with these disorders, so I can't say, but it makes for good entertainment.
I'm glad. I bet they're glad their narcissism paid off for you.
Sure. I think maybe Light is a bit more hard to believe because he's just always out to kill everyone and always out for himself. And then whereas I find Lelouch more believable because he's always in turmoil. So
true. And you could say that Light starts out and kind of goes throughout the whole story being really over the top, whereas Lelouch only gets over the top towards the end of Code Geass. Kinda.
Well, when he's in his other persona, he's over the top.
Well, yeah, but that's a persona. That's not who he actually is. He's using that persona to get to the ends that he wants.
Yeah, but by the end, he's just another persona, right?
Yeah.
He's literally donned a new suit and a new persona.
Very literally, in that sense, donned a new suit.
This
a
is
very good-looking suit, I might add.
This is my spoiler-free recap of the events.
That was actually pretty good, I gotta be honest with you.
Thank you.
That was better than I thought it would be.
Oh.
What about you, Tsunoda? You got anything else before we move on?
I personally I can't speak on what's it called? Code Geass because I haven't watched it yet. But as for Light, I'm still not sure about actually, never mind. I'm not sure how to state it. Never mind on it.
Okay.
Sorry.
How very astute.
Light is so mentally ill that Shinoda has been left speechless.
Yes.
Because I love him, okay?
Oh my. Well, thank you for
Light did nothing wrong.
He did a lot of things wrong, but moving on. So the next one we're going to talk about is Welcome to the NHK. Now, I love Welcome to the NHK. It's actually one of my favorite anime ever. Not necessarily my top 10, but it's just definitely up there on my list. But two things that Welcome to the NHK does really, really well is it deals with schizophrenia and agoraphobia in the main character of the show. And something else that it definitely delves into is this idea of hikikomorism, which is something that Japan as a nation
suffers from.
Yeah, has had a problem with for many, many years now. And for those of you that don't know, that's easy for me to say. Hikikomorism is basically this group of people that, for various reasons, typically having to do with either depression or some other form of mental illness, refuse to leave their homes. Like, whether it's actually at their parents' house or an apartment on their own, they don't leave their house. And anytime they ever go outside, it's almost always at night, and almost always they go places where people won't see them, or a very few number of people will see them, and they basically spend their entire lives inside, away from people. There isn't really at least from what I have read, there isn't a concise agreement on what has caused this in Japanese culture, but it seems to be something that's somewhat unique to Japanese culture. I mean, you see it in other places, but not to the extent that you see it in Japan.
Like, it's a huge issue there.
Yeah, I mean, it's an economic issue, it's a societal issue. It's becoming an issue because these people aren't having children, and it's contributing to Japan's already declining birth rate. But that's something that Welcome to NHK actually portrayed really well, because the main character of this particular show is a hikikomori, and it kind of shows them for what they kind of are, warts and all. Like, they're not necessarily the best kind of people, and they have a lot more wrong with them than just necessarily being depressed. Like, the main character of Welcome to NHK is schizophrenic, and he has full-on conversations with, like, his bed, his refrigerator, his microwave, because he thinks they are fucking alive and talking to him.
Don't you do that?
I do have conversations with myself, but I can honestly say I've never had conversation with an appliance.
Oh, you're so
You're missing out.
I mean, if you say so. What appliance have you had a conversation with?
My toilet.
Did it say, please stop going to Tim Hortons so much?
Oh my god. You know it.
Like, honey, I can't handle all these Timbits you keep throwing at me.
Stop.
Oh god. Hashtag too real.
Oh, but I mean, in all seriousness, like, you've seen it, Welcome to NHK, right?
Yeah.
I mean, don't you think that like there are real people out in the world who, for whatever reason, have this really incredible fear of going outside of their own homes? Like, I think it portrayed that really well.
Yeah.
Because he has, like, this panic attack the first time he has to go out of his apartment.
I mean, I myself am an introvert, but I don't have a fear of crowded places. And
the thing is,
so,
there is a big difference between them.
There's a huge difference. Which is why I was going to say, like, I understand it somewhat, but, like, not really. So, but I know that it's more common than a lot of the other mental disorders that we've been talking about, like agoraphobia. I feel is more common. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's more common.
I think it's certainly common in Japanese culture.
I meant like just like in Western culture.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't know the statistics on how many people around the world suffer from agoraphobia, but I know it's a significant number.
Or maybe it's like a more socially acceptable phobia, maybe.
Just to clarify, what exactly is agoraphobia again?
It's literally the fear of leaving your house.
Like the fear of crowds or public places, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's literally the fear of going outside. I think that's literally what it translates as. But yeah, that's and you're right. I think to your point, I think it's definitely considered a more socially acceptable disorder to have. It's certainly not something that a lot of people get like made fun of for having.
Well, yeah, like it's not like it impairs you, but it doesn't necessitate you to be like hospitalized for like, because like a lot of these other illnesses you should probably be hospitalized, but I feel like there's a lot of people with agoraphobia that like function somewhat normally.
That's true. I mean, there are people with agoraphobia who like they live with other people who anytime that there's anything that necessitates them going outside, they have the people that they live with go do it. So you can actually live a somewhat decent life being agoraphobic. I wouldn't recommend it. It's an irrational fear that you should probably talk to someone about, with a psychiatrist or whatever.
Get that shit taken care of.
And in a way, that's kind of what happens in Welcome to NHK. I don't want to give away too much, because if I do say too much, it gives away the twist in the plot of the story. But it's kind of what ends up happening to the main character. He finds someone who starts talking to him, and there's a whole bunch of conspiracy theories that turn out to be true, and some of them are false. But I mean, that's part of Welcome to NHK is watching someone get over this sort of disorder, this agoraphobia that he has, this basically him getting over being a hikikomori. You can certainly debate the merits of the way he gets over it, but I think the fact that they're showing someone getting over it is a positive thing.
Did he get over it? I have a very
Kinda.
vague memory, but I feel like he didn't.
I mean, you can say he definitely got over it to the point where he was able to talk to other people.
Yeah, I guess. But he still lives in his room.
Yeah, but he's not necessarily alone anymore.
Sure.
I don't know. I think that's the bigger issue. The fact that with people who are agoraphobic and who are hikikomoris typically are incredibly solitary. They don't interact with anyone face to face if they can help it. And seeing him being able to do that and getting better and better at it as the show went on, I thought was actually a good thing. It shows that this is actually a treatable condition.
Yeah, which is important to show in a lot of these shows. Like, I feel a lot of shows don't look into it enough and don't look at that avenue. I mean, some of them, you're not focused on it, but I do feel you should at least say something about it and say, yeah, these are treatable. There is something that can be done about them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's actually something that fiction does. Well, I will say this. It used to not do it very well, but fiction in general over the last decade or so has gotten really good at portraying mental illness as being something that is not necessarily fatal. Like, you can treat it. There are so many mental illnesses now that people have that, while maybe not curable, they are treatable. And it's only recently, I think, that we've seen fiction kind of delve into that aspect of it. Whereas before it was seen as, you had this, you're fucked.
Which is not true at all.
No, it may have been true back 50, 60 years ago, but it's not true anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, 50, 60 years ago, they used to think that shock therapy was a good treatment for being schizophrenic. Don't do that. Don't shock yourself if you're schizophrenic.
Shock yourself if you're into it.
Yes, only if you're into it, and only for sex.
Wow.
I mean, let's not go too far. Just restricting stuff to sex would be too boring.
Wow. We're going to gloss completely over that statement and move on to the next anime we have on our list, which is Elfen Lied. Now, have you seen Elfen Lied show?
No.
I'm actually surprised because
I've actually watched the first episode like 3 times and then never continued.
Wow.
I'm ashamed of you.
Because the first episode, there's like a naked lady killing people. Sorry for the spoilers.
That should be all you need.
But then it goes to these it switches the scene to these ugly ass school children that are not naked and are not killing people, and I'm like, what happened? I'm not gonna.
Let me get this straight. Your contention is that it's bad because the school children aren't naked.
It's bad. No, it's not bad. It has lost my attention because the nudity stopped.
Wow. Okay. Well, now we know how to get your attention in the first episode. Just have all of the characters be naked.
I mean, wouldn't that get your attention?
Well, it would certainly get my curiosity.
Uh-huh.
But no. So the specific mental illness that Elfen Lied, I think, portrays really well is a mental illness that used to be called multiple personality disorder. It's now called dissociative identity disorder. But the main character of Lucy has sort of these multiple personalities inside of her, and they can come out at completely at random times. And that's kind of the core of the story is the 2 school children, as you said, trying to figure out who she is and where she's from, and it sort of evolves as sort of this mystery as what is this person's purpose, because it kind of becomes obvious that she's not an ordinary person because she has these powers.
Is it a spoiler to ask why she's suffering from this illness?
It has to do with their quote-unquote creation.
Yeah, it's a bit spoilery.
A bit, yeah.
Would you say it's a mental stress that caused it, or
most
something
definitely
else?
Yeah, for sure.
Mental
Most
stress?
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. But the thing that I wanted to point out specifically by having Elfin Lied on this list is the way that this multiple personality disorder is portrayed. Before, when this, not necessarily before, but and when I say before, like many years ago, when this illness was portrayed, it was always portrayed as like the people that had it could control when their different personalities like came out. But that's not the case. Like, it can literally happen like that at any time. And that's something that Elfin Lied actually does really, really well. Because they'll be right in the middle of an action scene and her personality will change to this, like, pacifistic, docile personality. And she doesn't know how to fight anymore.
It was frustrating, but it was very well done.
Yeah. And it also adds an air of mystery. Like, it kind of invites you to ask, who is this person? Where does she come from? What can she do? I don't know. She is a little crazy. She's more than a little crazy. She's very crazy.
She's absolutely nutty.
But also, as you mentioned, if you haven't seen Elfin Lied yet, there's a lot of nudity in Elfin Lied. In fact, it's the only non-hentai that ARMS has ever made.
Interesting.
So that's something.
I have no clue who ARMS is.
ARMS is basically a company that only makes hentai, except for Elfin Lied.
Oh. Thank God for ARMS. They sound like very great people.
Yes, thank God for ARMS. I have 2 of them.
That too.
That was a bad joke. I'm sorry.
No, just own up to it.
Were you being insensitive to amputees? Jesus.
That's something else that's in Elfin Lied.
Oh my God.
Oh God, how many of them?
There's at least 2 that I know of that are amputees of some kind.
There's a lot of amputees in that show.
Yeah, there's at least 2 that I can remember off the top of my head. And you actually get to see one get her arms chopped off.
Yay!
It's fun.
This is a very kid-friendly show, people. Go ahead.
It's a very kid-friendly show. You should show this to all the kindergartners in your life. But no, the whole reason I put this on here is the fact that Elfin Lied shows multiple personality disorder for what it is. It's something that's completely uncontrollable, and the people that have it, they can be literally completely different people anytime they have a new personality that asserts itself. And I thought that was something that Elfin Lied actually did very well. You can certainly debate, and I would be happy to debate the actual quality of Elfin Lied to you for other reasons. Seriously, the animation is not that great. The character designs are kind of basic. Anytime that the action kind of dives down, it just flashes you tits and ass to keep your attention. But I don't know, just the way that particular illness was portrayed is the only reason I wanted to bring that up. But it kind of leads into the next thing we wanted to talk about, and that's an anime called Monster. Now, you've seen this, right, Sho?
Yep.
Would you agree with me? You've never heard of it?
Nope.
Oh my God.
Oh my! Why are you here?
Why am I here? What do I exist?
Oh, no.
All right. Well, for those of you who haven't seen it, which is apparently Shinoda, so Monster is basically about it's basically about 2 people. One of them happens to be a serial killer who suffers from sociopathy. He's a sociopath.
Sexy.
Yeah, well, yes. I don't think that I can actually say more of the actual plot without giving too much of it away.
I would just describe it as the main character is a doctor and he's trying to catch a serial killer.
Yeah, but that's basically it. Yeah, without giving too much away. And it sort of plays out like a sort of mystery, almost in the same way that Death Note is like you know who did that and you know who's after the person who did it. It's just watching how it actually happens. But I thought that in Monster in particular, I thought it was really well done how they showed the sociopathic tendencies of the actual serial killer. I thought because like sociopaths don't give two shits about what they're doing. Like they don't care that it's bad. They don't even see it necessarily as a bad thing what they're doing. Yep. All they really care about is that they have this urge to kill and they have to satisfy it. And I thought that it did a really good job with it. I mean, obviously there's other anime that do that show characters like that, but they never really frame it in the context of an actual mental disorder. Whereas Monster does. You can certainly say that about a lot of shonen villains are like that. They just want to watch the fucking world burn. But I think Monster. Well, yeah. But I think Monster, for what it is able to accomplish, actually shows sociopaths for what they are. They're people who actually do a really good job integrating into society, and a lot of them you would never guess that they actually are serial killers. I think that's part of the reason that the story of Monster is actually so good, because you actually get to watch that play out almost in real time, because Monster isn't a short show. It's what, 80 something episodes?
70 something.
Yeah, it's in the 70s and 80s or 80s in episode length. I can't remember exactly how many episodes it is. It was on for longer than a year. But I don't know. It's just I thought that the way the whole chase aspect between the two main characters worked out. I thought it was a good way to show off the sort of traits of an actual serial killer. And how they actually are. They're usually very charismatic. They try really hard to blend in with society, and they try to lead an outward appearance of a normal life.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really see a lot of the serial killer living his everyday life. So, but I would say that the best part of Monster is how they characterized the serial killer, how they characterized his mindset and his like thought process. And it wasn't like a very blunt way of describing the thought process. It's from the perspective of an investigator, like piecing things together. So you get like a piece of this, and like you really don't know who this person is, and you only get pieces and pieces. And the way that they arranged it made it very, very creepy, and it was a very scary and like terrifying, just how messed up the character's personality was. And I thought that was the forte of Monster. I would absolutely agree with that.
Definitely worth watching, I think, or reading. The manga's pretty good too.
Sure.
I don't know. I really don't think we can say much more without giving too much of the story away.
Yeah, I don't really remember too much.
Was it a long time ago that you watched it?
No, it's just, it doesn't stick with me.
Hey, that's my territory.
It's not I'm about to say.
It's not very flashy.
All right, well, then we'll move on to one of the absolute holy grails of mental illness in anime, and that is Evangelion.
Oh boy, oh boy.
Oh boy. Where do you even start? Post-traumatic stress disorder, major depressive disorder, social anxiety disorder, you name it, Shinji's got it.
Pussy boy disorder.
Wait, what was the trauma?
He was depressed.
Have you not seen Evangelion?
He got what?
I said, have you not seen Evangelion?
But there was no trauma before he got in the robot, right?
Well, his mom died.
Oh, I didn't even remember that. Was that really a traumatic thing?
I don't know. Let me kill your mom and see if it's traumatic for you.
No, but like, I don't think he really they displayed Shinji being PTSD about his mom.
I mean, you can definitely say that he is depressed, for sure.
Yeah.
I think the PTSD might come after the fact, especially like once he starts getting in, piloting the Evangelion.
It definitely played a much bigger factor after that.
especially in End of Evangelion, the movie. But you can definitely say that at the outset of the story, Shinji is a majorly depressed teenager. And I don't know, it's like...
He just needs a father figure.
Well, he has a father figure. Unfortunately, that father figure is an asshole.
Hey. He was just trying to do what was best for humanity. He was a great dude.
I mean, you're not wrong, but not the father I want in my life.
I
Just
call him
saying.
Daddy.
Hey, fuck you. But no, like, Evangelion kind of portrays, cause like, Evangelion occurs with like 3 teenagers who are going through puberty, and puberty is not the most stable time in a human being's life.
One would argue that it's the second most unstable time. Second only to your midlife crisis.
Yeah, let me know how yours is going.
Wow.
Wow, that was actually rude. I'm sorry. Fuck it. But I think that Evangelion displays all of these different mental illnesses in the context of like a very sexually charged story, because like you look at Shinji and how he kind of evolves over the course of the story. Like, I'm really trying hard not to talk about that scene in Evangelion, but it's the only thing that keeps coming.
It's important. Let's talk about it.
No, I don't want to talk about it instead. But you look at it, like, in the beginning, he's sort of this empty shell of a person. And even by the end, he's sort of still an empty shell. But he's an empty shell with substance because he's had these sort of really traumatic experiences. And he doesn't know how to deal with them.
Sure. I see Shinji as just someone who has no confidence in himself. So that would make him depressed. I don't really see him as having social anxiety. Because, like, doesn't he have, like, friends at school?
You mean the friends that beat the shit out of him when they first meet him?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
But they became friends after, right?
Yeah.
But that was after.
I guess. But it's not like he... Well, I don't know.
Do you need to rewatch Evangelion?
I don't
need to
want
watch
to.
a show. I've only seen the movies.
But... You see, like, you look at Asuka, right? She's, like, batshit crazy.
Why? She's just... Wait, why is she crazy?
Have you fucking watched Evangelion?
I don't know. I have watched it. I don't see how she's crazy.
So you need to do a rewatch.
Like,
Oh
really?
my God. Shh.
Like, she yells at Shinji all the time for... Like, she's constantly on her fucking period.
Yeah, but that's not crazy. That's within the realm of sanity.
That's within the realm of woman.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it.
I'm gonna completely disavow what he just said.
Hey, she operates by my standards, so.
Well, she is a lot like you.
Exactly.
Bitchy, crazy, and out of control.
I'm still functioning somewhat.
Ish.
Oh, go eat some nuts.
Low blow.
You realize that anytime I'm meeting now, I'm gonna try and like legitimately try and feed you nuts for like I'm gonna try and slide it into whatever
you
you're
two
eating.
keep it in the bedroom? My God.
Oh my.
He's allergic to nuts. But no, getting back to what we were talking about. Like, I personally think that Asuka has some personality issues. You can debate me on that if you want.
A mental disorder.
Not necessarily a mental disorder, but she definitely has personality issues.
Well, who doesn't?
Certainly everyone here. But it's just watching them all interact with each other and how, like, unable to cope with anything, especially Shinji, how unable to cope with stuff that he is able to. Like, I know that after a while it probably felt like the whole world was on his shoulders, and I as a teenager, that has to be something that you don't want at all. it's just watching him just slide deeper and deeper into depression as the show went on. That was part of the reason I enjoy it so much.
That's why I hate it. I don't hate it. I didn't like that part.
See, I loved it. Well, to be fair, I love anything where you actually get to watch people slide further and further down a rabbit hole.
Oh God.
That's why I like Death Note so much, because the longer you watch it, the longer you get to watch Light become just batshit fucking insane.
Light did nothing wrong.
Excuse me? You want to repeat that, sir?
Light did nothing wrong.
You are wrong on so many. Griffith did nothing wrong. Light did everything wrong.
Oh no.
Fight me, you bitch. I know. Does no one else actually see this in Evangelion besides me?
No, I definitely see where you're coming from.
Like, just watching a character just dive deeper and deeper into depression. That's not enjoyable for any of you.
I mean, it's depressing to watch.
It's uncomfortable to watch.
There we go.
Well,
I think
you're
that's
not supposed to think it's comfortable. I'm sure being depressed is not a comfortable state of being.
Well, I didn't like it because it was uncomfortable.
Alright, well then, moving on. To another show that you absolutely hated. So, a couple years ago, there was a show that came out called Orange. It's based on a manga. I actually highly recommend you read the manga. It's really good. But the show, without giving too much away again, sort of focuses on this group of teenagers who have a friend who is severely depressed because his mom died, and he can't really get over it, and he blames himself for his mom dying. And a lot of the show is kind of devoted to having this group of friends like console him, basically.
Trying to help him out.
Do what?
Trying to help him out.
Yeah, trying to help a brother out. Just, my mom died. Can you help a brother out?
Trying to get in a brother's pants?
Well, one of them did. But yeah, the specific like disorder that the character in question, his name is Kakeru, suffers from is a part of major depressive disorder called adjustment disorder, where you have a traumatic event happen to you. You blame yourself for said traumatic event, and then you can never adjust your life accordingly to it. So, like, I think the if I recall correctly, the story takes place over the course of almost a year, where he's completely unable to move on from the fact that his mom died, so much so that he becomes suicidal. And like, as someone, as I mentioned before, who has actually attempted suicide, I think it definitely showed what the thought process behind someone who becomes suicidal, what it shows what that's like. And certainly in a way that is incredibly realistic, and like it pulls no punches. Like, it'll show you all the bad stuff that you don't want to see.
Yeah. It went into it deep, and it was kind of painful to watch. It was good, but it was painful to watch at the same time.
Mm-hmm. The character of Kakeru was really well done, the one who suffers from depression. I think they handled him really well, especially how he wanted to avoid like getting to know people and letting people into his life because he didn't want to be a burden on them, which I think is very realistic for people who suffer from suicidal tendencies. And I thought it was a good portrayal of someone with those tendencies, but I didn't like the main character Naho because she was not helpful.
I remember when this show was airing and we were watching it. It's like every week is like, that bitch, that skank hoe, she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing.
So she gets like a folder of like a prophecy of what's going to happen, and she decides to read like one page at a time instead of, reading the whole thing. And then she's like, oh, I forgot, I didn't read ahead that far, oh no. And I'm like, bitch, can you not read more than one page per day? Jesus.
This is not just a problem of the anime. This is a problem of, sorry, this is not just a problem of the character. This is a problem of the anime itself. But that's something we're not gonna go into that much.
But regardless of your issues with the anime, you would actually agree that the character of Kakeru was actually portrayed really well.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can agree on that then.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you said, people who get that way, who like become suicidal, they don't want to be a burden on anyone else. And actually, we're not going to talk about it here, but if you haven't yet, you should go watch or listen to our episode that we did on March Something Like a Lion, because that is something that entire story revolves around. And by the time this comes out, that should be out too. Self plug. But yeah, I thought that Orange did a really good job with that, and showing that you don't necessarily need to have medicine or like professional help to help you get through it. Sometimes all it takes is a really good group of friends.
Yeah. It's true. A good support system definitely helps.
And a part of the problem with Kakeru in the story was that he lost the only support system he had, which was his mother. And he didn't really understand how to cope with that. And then, in comes the brigade, and they definitely help. They definitely just like
everyone except Naho helped.
Well, I will fucking murder you. I swear to God. But it shows that sometimes all it takes for these people is someone to talk to, and it's sometimes the solution really is that simple.
Definitely, it's a very good lesson that it imparts. That because they contrast it with when he goes back, when the person who's depressed, Kakeru, goes back to his old set of friends from middle school or something. And then when he tells them that he's depressed, the old set of friends is like, oh, you're kidding, right? That's so funny. And then they move on. They don't really want to talk about it. And it really shows how much meaning for a person who suffers from depression and suicidal tendencies it is for them to just talk about it. And that's really important for real life. You should talk about you should talk with the people about their insecurities if you know someone who is depressed, and it's really helpful. And they did portray that part really well.
All right. Well, moving on. Someone else is going to have to talk about this because I have not seen Ancient Magus Bride.
Wait, are we skipping? Are we skipping the pet girl?
Yes, because I have nothing but negative things to say about that.
Wait, that's even better. Say it.
Oh, no.
All right, well, okay, so I took it off the chart, but I guess if we have to talk about it. So there's an anime called The Pet Girl of Sakaroso. I know that there's some people who will listen to this who absolutely love that show. I have certain problems with that show. It's not because I thought that the show itself was bad. I thought that actually, in general, the show was really well done. It's just that one of the main characters, in fact, the main character around which everything kind of flows, suffers from a form of autism called Asperger's syndrome. And this particular form of autism, it's a very high functioning form of autism where it makes it very difficult for you to interact with people. You have almost no social skills. And I thought that in a way with this particular character, I thought it was portrayed really well up until the point where they start to sexualize the actual disorder itself.
Wait, what?
And that's what I have a huge problem with.
How do you sexualize? What?
They kind of...
It's Moe that she trips on her speech and she can't really... she's so clumsy and so cute.
Oh my god.
Like, I'm not saying that you can't actually fall in love with someone who has like a mental disorder, which there's people out there who have mental disorders who lead very productive lives and have, relationships and have families and whatnot. My problem with this is the way they're portraying it, the romance itself. Like, the only it almost makes it kind of too obvious that the only reason this one character gets romantically involved is because he sort of fetishizes the idea that she's kind of out there.
She's a moe.
Yeah. They kind of make it cute. They kind of make the fact that she has a specific mental disorder, a specific form of autism, cute. And I didn't like that. I like, she is, I mean, she looks cute. She's very moe, and it yes, but I don't like it. I don't like it when people fetishize or sexualize mental disorders, and I think that that's something that Pet Girl of Sakaroso actually did, and I don't like it for that.
Yeah, I'd agree wholeheartedly.
It's pretty.
I do think it's worth watching.
It's pretty well animated.
It's very well, and like the character designs and everything are really well done, and the OP is actually really catchy.
If you like moe, you should watch it.
Yeah, I mean, if you like moe character designs, you'll love the character designs in it. But just the way that they portray one of the main characters with sexualizing autism, I don't like it. I mean, I'm not discounting the possibility that there are people out there who are turned on by the fact that people could have a mental illness. I mean, maybe that's a thing. I don't know.
There's a fetish for definitely is.
There's a fetish for everything else, so I'm assuming there's got to be a fetish for autism as well. But it made me very uncomfortable at the point where I realized that they're fetishizing and they're sexualizing autism, and it's like, this. No.
Please stop.
I don't want this. Anyway, that's all I got to say about Pet Girl Sakaroso. Someone talk about Ancient Magus Bride.
Well, I added the Ancient Magus Bride. So...
Didn't you hate the show?
Oh, I hated it.
Fuck you. Don't talk about it. Get out of here.
Oh my god.
No, I'm just kidding. Talk about it.
Oh my god. So, the main character, the heroine, Chise, it has a whole slew of mental illnesses. First of all, she has... minor spoilers for Magus Bride. I'll try to keep it as minor as possible. So first of all, she has reactive attachment disorder, which occurs when you have a dysfunctional relationship with your parental figures. Either they're not present or they're abusive, and because of this relationship, you are unnaturally, not attracted, but you are really nice and familiar with other strangers that are older than you. Like, you're looking for a replacement for your parents. And this you can see really obviously in the main character of Ancient Magus Bride, because...
Yeah, it's painfully obvious.
Mm-hmm. Because it's later on revealed more specifically what happened with her parents, but she had a really dysfunctional relationship with them, and now she literally slavishly follows this adult magician, and it's really unhealthy, and her entire situation is unhealthy, but I can see that she's looking at this new magician as a replacement for her parents, and it's not exactly deserved. But that's only one aspect of her problems. She also has PTSD because number one, she had a dysfunctional relationship with her parents. Also, she gets tortured by spirits as a child, so she's has a lot of trauma as a child, and you can tell that because she's currently really depressed and very suicidal. She actually attempts suicide, and she actually sells herself into slavery
by choice.
Yeah,
just to escape her.
I guess that wouldn't be selling herself. She volunteered for slavery.
This girl sounds like she's got like a plethora of problems.
Oh yeah, she does.
no respect for herself at all. She just wants to die, so she's like, whatever, I'll be a slave. Yeah. So obviously she has major depressive disorder because she has no worth for herself because of all the stuff that's happened to her as a child. And then the older magician Bone Daddy figure buys her from slavery, and they develop a relationship that I would describe as Stockholm Syndrome.
It's major Stockholm Syndrome.
Because basically, he's a master, she's a slave, and she's treating him as a father and a husband and a, like, counselor. It is really messed up.
All this
in
sounds
my
incredibly
opinion,
unhealthy for the main character.
It is very
it
unhealthy.
is.
She needs professional help, and she's
fact, funny thing, like all the other characters in the anime, all the side characters actually recognize this and comment on it constantly and consistently.
Yeah, they're like, girl,
this isn't
you should.
just something we perceive. This is in the anime itself.
Yeah, they're like, you should really, like, do you really want to be in this weird relationship with this guy? This doesn't seem very healthy. And, she responds with, no, I really like being with this guy. But to me, it seems she's very delusional and, like, she's obsessed with this man because of her disorders. And it's really not the right choice to stay with this person. But I really didn't like the Ancient Magus Bride because they romanticize this relationship between this unhealthy older man and this mentally ill younger girl, and I'd feel like she didn't get any help at all. She didn't get any mental help at all, and she just fell further into this bad relationship. So I couldn't get on board with it. And honestly, I think it treated all these illnesses really poorly because she didn't get help, and she should have. And what is that telling? What is that telling to people that view it? It's telling, like, just live with what you have. No, go see mental professionals. But no, I really didn't enjoy the Ancient Magus Bride.
It's almost in a way trying to normalize the idea of being in very bad relationships.
Well, it's allegedly based.
Not sure if I would go that far in saying it, but it
What are
does
your
have
opinions?
problems.
Shinoda,
Yeah, what's up?
you like the show, right?
I fucking loved it.
So, what are your thoughts on, Chisei?
I did love her, including all her problems, because it really displayed, a very troubled person, and it showed that, there was hope in it even through the dark times. Like, it showed off that there were other people that are willing to help out, even complete strangers. It's little things here and there that really made me like the show. But Shisei, she had major problems. She honestly, you did cover a good amount of it. But end of the day, I don't think it was horrible. I do think they could have done a slightly better job of it. Like, they bothered to talk about a lot of these problems, but they didn't give an outright solution. They're like towards the end of it, and I'm not gonna spoil anything. They ended it with something wishy-washy instead of actually talking about problems, and it's like, the hell. You're gonna talk about it so much in the show itself, and then just pretend like you never talked about it?
Yeah. I mean, it is true that she does go through some character development throughout the show, and she works through some of her problems by herself, not from not and no one helped her. Well, like, they offered to help, but she really had to figure it out by herself. But the thing is that this whole time she's in this relationship with this man, and this man is literally I think he's like manipulative. He's like
he's extremely manipulative.
taking advantage of her her
Trust.
mental instability and her lack of self-confidence to use her for his own like selfish needs, and that's really not helpful at all. And it's really like it hurts to watch this relationship keep going. Like, it's not the kind of story I want to watch. So like, it's a really harsh story if you take it in that angle, and I didn't really enjoy watching someone with mental illness struggle with it by themselves and be manipulated because of it. So what can I say?
Yeah. Like, there were people that were trying to help her out in the show itself, but even then, she didn't take them up on it.
No. Well, I think that's all I have to say about the Ancient Maker's Pride.
Well, then shall we move on to something else I haven't seen?
Yeah, sure. Okay. We can move on to Tokyo Ghoul. So there are a lot of disorders we have listed here. First of all, we have schizophrenia, which you can see in the first season of the anime when Kaneki is hallucinating Rise. Is there any other hallucinations? No. Oh yeah, like when. Okay.
Is that necessarily a hallucination, though?
I mean,
like...
if you want it to be.
Okay.
Well, he was definitely hearing voices in his head, so.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out that you don't actually have to see a hallucination for it to be schizophrenia. As long as if you're hearing voices, that's also schizophrenia.
Like, it's debatable whether he actually hallucinated, but like he had to have heard voices in his head. That's necessary. And near the end of the first season, you have this like pseudo dream sequence where he's like having a conversation with Rise, which is like basically hallucination at this point. So we have that happening. And coupled with the hallucinations, well, I don't think the hallucinations don't really have a grounding in reality because he's having them because of... Wait, is that a spoiler? No, it's not. No, he's having them because he had a Rize's organ implanted in himself. So it's a bit fantastical, but at the same time, it does make sense because he does have a lot of stress building up because he can't eat normal food anymore and he has to cannibalize people. So,
it's not cannibalism if you're eating your prey.
Oh my god, is he a ghoul or a human? The question, no. But yeah, there's that. Also, a major part of the anime and the manga as well is multiple personality disorder, which we see in season 1 that Kaneki suffers from. And it's a theme throughout the entire franchise or manga. Basically, a lot of different characters get tortured, and because of their torture and the extreme trauma they experience from the torture, their hair turns white, which is a Marie Antoinette syndrome, which is a bit mythological. It's not exactly scientific, but it's like a rumor. Like, when you suffer from stress, your hair turns white. But
don't lie, it comes with eating too much cake.
Sure. Too much icing?
Maybe.
Too much other
that was a French Revolution joke, right?
Oh, okay. Totally over my head. But yeah, so like when Kaneki experiences torture and goes from black hair to white hair, that signifies a huge change in his personality. And it might not be obvious for anime-only viewers, but for manga viewers or readers, Kaneki goes through a lot of different traumatic events, which causes him to develop further personalities. And by where we are at right now at the manga, he has so many different personalities, and it's quite hectic. And of course, a lot of different other characters beside him experience this, and that's just a format that the author uses for character development, is that you go through torture, you develop a multiple personality, and then you just you solve your character flaws by that process, which isn't interesting. I'm not entirely sure if that's a politically correct thing to do.
It's a very interesting way of solving problems. You solve problems by creating more problems.
It's a different process. I'll say that.
It's very medieval. You torture the crazy out.
How did that work in the Inquisition?
A
lot of people died.
A lot of people died.
Oh no. Getting back to Tokyo Ghoul, along with this white-haired version of characters, after they get tortured, they usually turn into killing machines and suffer from antisocial personality disorder. And so that's... And besides all of those different disorders revolving around torture, a lot of different characters were abused in their childhood, which they suffer from PTSD, which is just lovely. Tokyo Ghoul is all about broken people, and I will say it's not exactly politically correct, but it is definitely entertaining. No, I wouldn't say it doesn't try to be realistic in any way, but I do appreciate all the different ways that characters are sort of like mentally broken. Because it's very interesting fiction, but it's not very it's not realistic in any way. It's very symbolic, metaphorical, but it's not like Watamote or Welcome to the NHK. It's very fantastical.
Over the top.
I wouldn't call it over the top. But it's very unconventional, so I do appreciate it. Although it definitely could trigger a lot of people if you are sensitive to those topics.
Now, let me ask you something. If you're a manga reader, does watching the anime actually give you PTSD because it's so shitty?
Oh my god, so much PTSD.
So the answer is yes.
I don't even know. Yes.
I'm assuming that was a yes to that question.
Oh my god. I remember reading the manga and then being like, oh my god, this scene is so epic. Why did I watch the anime? The anime was so stupid. But yeah.
All right, shall we move on to something I've actually seen? Why didn't we do this in alphabetical order?
I don't know.
Because fuck out.
Wait, Shinoda, you've seen Tokyo Ghoul, right?
Yes.
Do you have anything to say about the anime?
It's cringy.
What? Oh, damn.
Wow. So Shinoda, what's your review of Tokyo Ghoul? 2 words. It's cringy.
I'm sorry.
Care to expand on those thoughts?
Can we just make this like a running theme here where Shinoda just does 2-word reviews of anime?
Oh, God.
Wait, hold on. Isn't that Jason's thing?
I mean, yeah. It used to be.
Rip.
No, let's try this out. Shinoda, give me a 2-word review of Evangelion.
Can I expand on those 2 words?
No.
Robot, now.
Oh my god.
Robot now, that's a good one.
I'm gonna cry.
I like this. We should just do an entire episode with him doing 2-word reviews of anime.
New segment. Okay. But I do like the fact that they went into so much of the trauma and the fact that he was constantly hearing and seeing someone else in his head, even though, and that might be a part of the whole ghoul thing. That might just be him.
Might just be him.
It really might be. Let's be real. That's just a matter of fact. I do really like it. I wish they would resolve a lot of these problems, but they don't. So it's somewhat annoying to me. But end of the day, I still enjoyed it. So
Wow.
yeah. I enjoyed his pain. I'm sorry.
It was cringy, but you still enjoyed it. Okay.
Exactly. Listen, I'm a hypocritical bastard. Okay.
To be fair, we all said that we found Watamote cringy, but we enjoyed it.
Like, whenever I get around to watching it, I'm probably gonna love the fuck out of it, but I hate it also.
Okay. Sure.
Alright, well, moving on to another anime now.
Definitely.
So, we're going to talk about Anohana. I have a confession to make.
You haven't watched it?
I have watched. I have watched
Oh,
Anohana.
thank
However,
God. I was about to cuss you out.
I watched it when I had the flu, and I don't remember much of it.
Oh, honey.
Okay, I won't immediately curse you out. I will say, please rewatch it.
I definitely intend to, but I was so sick when I originally watched Anohana. I remember there was a girl with white hair, and she was kind of cute, and that's it.
Jesus
Mama.
Christ. Please rewatch it.
I know it was like a field trip. I do remember that.
Oh my god.
Now you'll get to watch the field trip sober.
I wasn't drunk, I was sick.
Yeah, listen, I would classify that state as not being sober, okay?
Okay, you have a...
Like, it
what
doesn't...
you have a cough and you automatically just start chugging whiskey?
I mean, I've heard that's a pretty damn good solution.
Yeah, make yourself pass out, you won't feel sick.
Exactly! What is that missing? Benadryl?
Or whiskey, just drink enough of it, it'll have the same effect.
Either or, one's more fun.
Anyway,
Well,
Anohana.
Yeah, so the basic premise of Anohana is that this group of
Androids?
No. Are we talking about the same show?
Wait, no, fuck. I'm thinking Plastic Memories.
Yes,
never mind. Okay,
Jesus
I know what
Christ.
I'm talking about. Shut up, shut up.
Okay, PSA, Plastic Memories is not Anohana.
Shut
Oh,
up.
God.
I'm remembering.
But yeah, it's this group of small children, what do you call them?
Annoying.
Elementary schoolers. Elementary schoolers. One of their group runs into the forest and dies, and then the rest of the group is like, oh fuck, and then they all get PTSD from the person dying. And then now it's the current setting when they're teenagers, and we see the main character suffering from depression because he can't get over the guilt of watching his childhood friend die. And you can see that he's he doesn't talk to many people. He doesn't talk to his old friends. He doesn't go to school. He just stays within his house. And he also seems to be suffering from schizophrenia because he's hallucinating the girl that died. And he's having conversations with her. So it's actually really emotional because throughout the anime we get to see how each of the friend group in their own way is suffering from PTSD and trying to cope with the trauma in different ways.
And they all are suffering.
Yeah. And it's pretty realistic in some ways. I think maybe the schizophrenia is a bit much. But I think the depression and the PTSD is very believable. It's very emotional. It's a very I would definitely recommend the show. It's a very good emotional drama. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about Anohana.
Benadryl is a hell of a drug.
Oh my god.
That's all I can tell you about Anohana.
Getting drilled is hell of a drug?
Benadryl.
Getting drilled.
Not get fuck you. Although what you said is not entirely untrue.
Oh my.
I mean, I don't remember much about Anohana, so I can't say much. I remember liking it.
Wait, did you watch Anohana, Shinoda?
Yeah. I remember
What do
all
you
those
think?
depressing little shits.
Oh, of course.
God, they were. They were horribly depressing. I love watching them suffer.
Oh no.
What is it about you and suffering? You just like watching it. No wonder you like ReZero so much.
There's a reason it's called suffer porn. It's not regular porn.
God. Well, that's actually a good segue. Speaking of suffer porn, the next thing is something that just makes me suffer thinking about it.
Oh, shut up. So, we have Attack on Titan listed here, but spoilers for the second season, sorry.
I thought you said you weren't going to do that.
Well,
what?
like...
No, we are. It's been out.
It's not like I'll be as vague as I possibly can.
Aww.
So... shut up.
He's so disappointed.
So, a certain character, I won't say who, in the second season is revealed to be suffering from a very extreme case of what did you call it? Dissociative?
Dissociative identity disorder.
Yes.
Or for those who don't know
multiple
about
personality disorder.
Yeah, that.
So this person has multiple personalities stemming from PTSD that he... oh, shit.
Well, you're fucked now.
That this person...
You are fucked now.
That this person suffered from the initial Titan attack. And I think it's a very well portrayed case of dissociative personality disorder, and it makes sense for this person's character, and in the manga it's described a bit more later on in the story. So like a lot of fiction can portray dissociative personality disorder as sort of like as something cool, but and they can use it like flippantly, but I think Attack on Titan portrayed it very realistically, and it's unlike Elfen Lied where the personalities are flipped randomly. They are flipped by like trigger words. So I don't know if that's realistic, but
not really, no.
Pardon?
Not really, no.
Okay, so it might not be realistic, but definitely fits into the story really well. It doesn't feel like forced. It feels very natural, this development of this disorder. Like you would think it would make sense. Whereas like when I see this disorder in a lot of other fiction, it does feel forced. So I do appreciate Attack on Titan for that. Yeah, that's about it for Attack on Titan. You can argue that like everybody's suffering from PTSD, but they don't really go into that in the show. So,
and not one thing I do like, if I may interrupt real quick,
go ahead.
the fact that not just the so-called heroes are suffering from it, but the villains of the group are as well.
I don't know how you can explain that without spoiling.
Good fucking luck there, buddy.
I'm not gonna explain it. I'm just gonna say that they do.
Okay, yeah, I can see what you're saying. Like, the people against humanity and the people for humanity are both, like, suffering from disorders. Yeah.
This anime has a fetish for suffering. I like that.
Oh my.
We've already established that, Shinoda.
I just want to reiterate. It never hurts.
You'd be really, like, well at home in the ReZero universe. Like, you really would. I am not even... That was weird. I'm moving on. God, you picked a lot of stuff I haven't seen. Noragami.
I haven't seen that either.
Oh, you haven't? Okay.
Like I've seen
the floor is yours,
here
show.
and there.
Well, minor spoilers for Noragami. Well, I think the main character is a god. I believe it's the god of calamity. Might be wrong. Yato.
It was like money or something.
No, you give money to all the gods. That's what you do in Japan. Like you give 5 yen coins to gods to like pray to them or something. It's like putting money in a fountain.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, I'm pretty sure he's god of calamity. And being the god of calamity, he's caused calamities.
Wow,
But like,
how intuitive.
I'm trying to be vague, okay?
It is definitely worth the watch. So
Says the person who hasn't seen it.
I've seen parts of it here and there.
Anyways, but like when we see him currently, he's very happy-go-lucky. He's very kind of like the court jester of the show. He's very happy and playful. He doesn't seem like a god of calamity. And a lot of that is because he's suffering from the PTSD and guilt of like causing the calamity, and that's basically his entire character progression, is trying to come to terms with the calamities he's caused. That stretches from the beginning of season 1 all the way to the end of season 2. Only by the end of season 2 is it resolved. So I thought it would be a really good show to bring up in mental illness, because like the main character, basically his entire character arc is based around coming to terms with the PTSD that he's experienced in his past. And I feel like it's very reminiscent of what war veterans go through. Not that I have any experience with that, but I can see...
What war did you fight in?
Oh my god, the war for Pantsu. No.
The war for Pantsu.
No. But I can see a lot of similarities between adjusting to a normal life after fighting a war and what this god of calamity in Noragami is trying to do. And it's definitely a major part of the story, and yeah, I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's handled well. I would say, I don't know if it's handled relatively basically, but it is a huge focus of the show, so it is very present. That's about all I have to say for Noragami.
Fair enough. And actually, what you mentioned with soldiers coming home from war, that's pretty much what it is. Like the PTSD that they suffer from is they're trying desperately to come to terms with what they've done, especially soldiers that actually had to kill other people.
Yeah, and you see with Yato, he almost has a dissociative personality disorder as well, because as when he was performing calamities, he was like a cold-blooded killer, but when you see him in the show, like I said, he's very lighthearted, and he actually does switch between those two personalities very suddenly, like switch to bloodthirsty and then back to playful very quickly and suddenly. So you can see he's definitely mentally disturbed, and the show does do a good job of addressing this. It isn't just like a character quirk, he has to actually work through this and come to terms with it. So I do like that they didn't just play it off as something.
It wasn't just a joke.
Trivial. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was part. Well, in season 1, it seemed like a joke because they didn't actually, like, most of coming to terms came into season 2. So if you look at the story as a whole, it's he comes to terms with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, shall we move on?
Oh my god, to the best anime ever.
Oh god, no. We're gonna absolutely excoriate this show right now. Why did we even put this on here? Why? Fucking why?
just to hurt you.
To disturb. Well, you've definitely accomplished that goal, sir. Oh no, fuck it. I'm not talking about it. You can talk about it. I'm not going to.
Okay,
oh god.
So, introducing the best anime ever, Sword Art Online. I'm joking. But we are talking about Sword Art Online. The only character trait that
best season, it doesn't have Kirito.
The only character trait that
Yes.
Kirito does have is PTSD. Yeah, so like people die around him and then he becomes sad and he becomes a loner, and he mopes around, and he's like, why are people dying? I have so much guilt. And then he becomes a loner, and because he's in mourning, he wears all black for the people that have died. And it's really a tragic story of trying to come to terms with the people that you've lost. It's such an emotional story.
Excuse me, but bullshit. I call major bullshit on everything you just said.
Alex, so
Fair.
rude. He's a veteran.
A veteran.
He is a veteran. He literally is a veteran.
I think he was talking about you.
Oh, really?
I mean, I was talking about Kirito, but yeah, sure,
Yeah.
why not?
Oh my god. So yeah.
Veteran my ass.
Sword
It's a
Art
fucking game.
Sword Art Online is not a good portrayal of PTSD, but it is a portrayal.
It's not a portrayal of anything good, let's be honest.
Sure. It's good animation.
Well, okay, I'll give you that. It's pretty decent animation, but like story-wise, it ain't got much going for it, man.
No, it doesn't.
But that black emotional PTSD, man.
Are you talking about the emphasis on the D?
Yes.
Wow, that was an interesting noise.
You know it. Okay, we can move on.
I don't know. I just fucking after the first story arc in Sword Art Online, I fucking hated it.
Yeah, I just put it on here. I don't know.
Because you knew it would garner this
arc
response.
is actually really good. It deals with cancer. No, AIDS. It deals with AIDS.
That's not a mental disorder.
AIDS is not a mental disorder. It's a physical
Depression
disorder.
of it, and the fact that someone will be dying.
Well, yes, but
wait, fuck, that was
AIDS.
major spoilers.
Wow.
AIDS is, wow.
That wasn't me.
Indeed. But AIDS is not a mental disorder.
No, I'm not saying it is. I'm talking about the fact that it goes into the fact that people are dealing with the emotional stress of it all.
Sure. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I really don't.
Oh my god.
Move on, somebody.
Okay, so next we have Hunter x Hunter.
Greatest
X
anime
Hunter.
ever.
It's not, the X is not pronounced. Okay,
Excuse
you're not
me.
a,
There's
you're not a diehard
fucking,
fan.
There's a fucking X there. I'm going to pronounce it.
Okay, anyways, so one of the characters in Hunter x Hunter, the gay clown Hisoka, he is physically turned on by people with a lot of power, and some may describe that as unnatural.
Some say.
But that's very, very it's not subtle at all. It's very in your face. He actually has a boner. He actually gets a boner when people talk about power, and he is when he sees power, he starts heaving, and he starts having he starts having hot flashes, starts sweating, he gets in the mood. But yeah, that's a form of paraphilia that is very unique. Don't see that often. But more relevant to the plot, I guess. One of the main characters, Killua, is he's a child, and he was born an assassin. So he was trained to kill people from basically from birth. So he suffers from antisocial personality disorder because he has no concept of the value of a human life. He just takes lives left and right. And it's really, really interesting to see Killua progress from a cold-blooded killer to someone who can actually, function in society.
Depth.
Yeah, who can relate to people on an emotional level and, be socialized. And this is a very, very gradual process that spans hundreds of episodes, but that may sound bad, but it is very good. It's very good, actually. At least I found it a very, very in-depth, slow process that was like one of the best parts of the show for me was watching Killua trying to like learn to become more human. And it was very emotional, and I think it was a really great portrayal of that, I guess. I don't know how realistic it is.
In Violet Evergarden, did we?
I have no idea. You can talk about it if you want to.
I mean, we didn't put it on the list.
No, it's fine.
But I think we're already at almost an hour and 40 minutes. I don't think we want to start adding to the list now.
No. I just thought, thinking on all this, it would have been very good to add on, but never mind. Maybe in part 2.
You know that almost hour we spent before we started recording where we were talking about this? That would have been the time to bring this up.
It didn't occur to me until I heard about Killua and coming into terms of becoming human. Or being human.
Slight spoilers for Violet Evergarden. Anyway. I haven't seen Hunter x Hunter, so I don't know anything I can say about it.
You also clearly haven't learned how to pronounce it. Joking.
I know how to pronounce the letter X. I learned that a long time ago.
Okay. Well, moving on from your illiteracy, we can... we also have Scum's Wish listed here, which displays what some people may call nymphomania, but what is
hypersexuality
currently classified as hypersexuality. I would say the main character, I forget her name. Well, the main heroine suffers from hypersexuality because she basically she
wants the D.
No,
and the
wants
V.
The card.
She has like angst from not being in a relationship with the person she wants to be with, so she medicates herself by obsessively having sex to numb the emotional pain, which is certainly unhealthy.
Yeah, to say the least, and not just for you, the person you're fucking.
Sure, and we also have another one of the characters, I guess I can't really say which one because it's a spoiler, who basically fucks everything this person can in order to... I have no idea why they do it. Oh, because they feel like... I have no idea, honestly. I can't describe this.
Did you watch Scum's Wish?
Yeah, but I don't understand the characters.
You're right about the main character, the main heroine rather, basically trying to fuck away all of her bad problems or bad thoughts and stuff. Not a healthy way to live. But
I think I know how to describe it. This other character, they fuck other people because they have trust issues. And they feel most in control when they fuck the other person and then toss them away. So they do this a lot, and they're almost sadistic in how much they want to be sexually dominant, in that they want to use sex as a tool to cause pain for others because they feel insecure about their relationships. So, I mean, that's a whole nother form of hypersexuality that is completely problematic. But how would you say Scum's Wish portrays hypersexuality well or not?
I will say this, that, well, are you asking me?
Anyone, really?
I will say this. I think it portrays it well in the fact that it shows how it can kind of ruin your life and how it can kind of ruin your relationships with other people.
It's true. It's basically, the moral of the story is that these actions are just they're a dead end action. They're not going to get you anywhere. They're only going to get you worse off.
They're only going to hurt you
pain.
and they're only going to end up hurting you and the people you're actually doing this to.
Yep.
And there is plenty of hurt in the anime. Plenty.
I want to say this though. There is one specific point of complete unrealism in Scum's Wish I have to point out. You cannot, as a man, I can't say this as a woman. As a man, you cannot cry and orgasm at the same time.
I beg to differ.
Oh my.
You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it.
Well, with the right wink wink medication, you can.
I'm telling you, man, you can't do it.
Yes, you can. Anyways.
But I would say that it definitely it portrays the consequences of how people deal with this mental illness really well.
Yeah, it might be a bit over dramatic, but
it is over dramatized a little bit for the anime. But I would still say overall the outcome is portrayed rather realistically.
Yeah, I definitely like how they ended the show.
Yeah, a lot of people did not. I'd like to point that out.
Oh, did they not? Really?
I think that the ending, by and large, was not necessarily well received. I'd say it's kind of like a 60-40 split.
I don't know. Interesting.
I don't know. It just seems like there's a significant portion of people who watched Scum's Wish and they thought that the show overall was good, but they just didn't like the ending.
Huh.
Well, then they have a problem themselves.
Well, shall we? We're coming up on an hour 50 minutes. Should we go ahead and talk about the last thing we have on the list here?
Let's.
Sure.
So I'll go with this. Have you ever heard of ludomania? No, it's not like having a mania for looting things. That's compulsive gambling. So Kakegurui, which is a show that aired last year, and is now finally available on Netflix. Thank you, Netflix, for that.
When everyone's already done watching it.
It took forever. But it's a show that deals with compulsive gambling. It's not necessarily it's certainly not a mental illness that, or a compulsion that you see really portrayed very often in anime. So for that reason, I'm really grateful for it. But I think that it portrays it rather in a very over the top way. Most people don't masturbate with poker chips. I'm just saying.
They should.
I'm not saying that you can't masturbate with poker chips. I'm saying that most people don't.
It's funny because Kakegurui 100% fetishizes compulsive gambling. But
I would say it does more than that. It fetishizes gambling itself.
Sure. And I didn't really have an issue with it, but when what we talked about previously, when you fetishize autism with the pet girl of Sakurazo, I mean, that just rubbed me off as insensitive. So I don't know, maybe it's just my bias.
Well, there is a slight difference. Like the way this is portrayed is completely over the top, whereas the pet girl of Sakurazo, it's very subtle.
It's true. The pet girl is very serious, or it's more like they're very serious about the romance, but the Kakegurui is clearly flippant. It's clearly for comedy and not realistic in any way.
Oh yeah, and it's done almost as a sort of shock value, almost.
Yeah, and compulsive gambling is not something that I'm personally aware of. None of the people I know compulsively gamble. I haven't really seen someone suffer from that, so maybe I'm so distanced from the issue that I can just watch this without caring. I don't know.
That's definitely a possibility. I mean, I don't really have anyone close to me that's a compulsive gambler either. I have seen what it can do to people. It's economically ruinous to be a compulsive gambler, because no matter how much of a winning streak you have, you're eventually going to lose.
Yeah, it's honestly quite
Depressing.
sad.
Yeah.
It is, honestly.
I will say, I even though I don't know anybody personally that suffers from gambling compulsion, where I live in Central Florida. I live near Tampa, and there's a casino that's like less than 10 minutes away from where I live, and I have to drive by it every day for work. And I can see what happens to the compulsive gamblers because they're the ones that are outside the casino begging for money. It's not a happy thought.
No, it's not, but
Just
it's
saying.
realistic.
It's very realistic, and I kind of wonder if you're going to end up seeing, because Kakegurui is going to have a second season.
I don't think it's gonna get serious.
I don't think it's going to get serious either. I just wonder if they're going to actually delve into like the negative aspects of being a compulsive gambler.
I know.
I seriously doubt that they'll actually get into it. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. It is just it's interesting to see because it's not something you see in anime a lot.
Yeah, I feel like compulsive gambling may be a problem that the West suffers more from than Japan. 'Cause I don't know if Japan has that.
There's a lot of
many
stories you see
casinos.
about people losing all of their money in pachinko parlors in Japan.
Oh yeah, they don't have casinos, but they have pachinko.
Yeah, they
Yes,
don't need
it's-
anything else when they have the pachinko machines.
Oh man,
It's technically not gambling either.
I guess not. Not traditionally. Not when. Yeah, you wouldn't consider that gambling.
Well, no,
Traditionally.
it's technically not gambling because a lot of the pachinko parlors are run. Actually, I think almost all of the pachinko parlors are run by the yakuza, and what they do is you go in and you give them money, and they give you all of these like little like trinkets and stuff, like the little plastic balls or whatever, and then the stuff that comes out of the machines isn't money. So what you do is you take your little trinkets that the machine gives you, you take them outside of the pachinko parlor, you find a member of the yakuza, give them that, and then they give you the money.
Well, that's pretty shady.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
but
that's how they get around it, though.
Technically allowed.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
It's because you're not giving up your money for the prospect of winning more money, technically. You're giving up your money for the prospect of winning useless trinkets.
Wait, gambling is illegal in Japan?
I think in most parts of Japan it is illegal, yes.
Well. What can I say?
I don't know that for a fact, so if there is anyone who does know whether it is or not, please let us know down below in the description.
Only
yeah,
gambling was as sexy as they show it in Kakegurui, the world would be a better place.
Have you ever gambled yourself?
No.
Well, you should try it. It's not that bad.
I don't see the appeal.
Winning money. It's pretty nice.
Girl, were you trying to get more people into gambling?
Yes, I'm trying to get you into gambling.
Oh my god.
I tried to get you into drinking when we went to LA, but that didn't happen.
Talk about another money hog.
Yeah,
Okay,
alcoholism.
but one actually gives you a good time. The other just is a straight loss of money.
Hey, the gambling high is real, man.
That's true.
It is.
It stimulates the same dopamine receptors, man.
Coming from a certified doctor, Dr. Williams.
Yes. Anyway, on that note, thank you all out there for dropping in to listen to this incredibly long episode. I'm sorry, we didn't mean it to get this long. We hope you enjoyed it because I know you fucking called it. I should have listened to you. You were right. We hope you enjoyed it because we always enjoy bringing this stuff to you. If you want to check out the previous episodes of the podcast, you can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. If you want to keep up with what we're doing and have a little more fun, you can join our new Discord server, become a member of our Facebook group, follow our Twitch channel, and visit our website. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, criticisms, or concerns on this or any episode, feel free to shoot us an email. Links to all of these things will be down below in the description. As always, I have been your host, Alex, and I will see you next time. Say goodnight, everybody.
I want to
Bye.
find something to eat.